The HOA so-called security patrol thought they could intimidate people into obeying their every order. But when they pulled a gun on an innocent black woman for trespassing in her own neighborhood, they made the worst mistake of their lives. Because the woman they tried to terrorize wasn't just a homeowner. She was the FBI's tactical commander, trained to deal with hostage situations, armed standoffs, and international threats. And unlike them, she actually knew the law. Commander Danielle Carter had spent 20 years serving her country. She had led FBI tactical teams into cartel strongholds, tracked down violent fugitives, and negotiated hostage rescues that made national news. Now in her early 40s, she was finally taking some time to enjoy the peace she had fought so hard to protect. She bought a beautiful 2-story home in a suburban neighborhood run by the Hawthorne Ridge HOA. On paper, it looked like a dream. Community quiet streets, trimmed lawns, playgrounds for kids, and a community pool. What the real estate agent didn't mention was that the HOA board was infamous for being power-hungry bullies. With their own private security team made up of retired wannabe cops, Danielle wasn't naive. She had heard the whispers, but she wasn't worried. She figured she could handle a few nosy neighbors. What she didn't expect was just how far the HOA would go to harass her. The trouble started a week after she moved in. Danielle returned home late after a training session at FBI headquarters. As she stepped out of her car, 2 men in black uniforms approached. "Excuse me?" "Ma'am," one of them barked. "This is a private neighborhood. We need to see your resident pass." Danielle raised an eyebrow. "Resident pass? I live here. That's my house." She pointed to her front door. The guard sneered. "We haven't seen you before. People don't just move in without going through us first." Danielle chuckled in disbelief. "Going through you? I bought my house from a realtor, not you." "Now if you'll excuse me," but the men blocked her path. One rested his hand on the holster at his hip. It was the first red flag. These men weren't just patrolling. They were armed. Over the next month, Danielle noticed the security patrol tailing her car whenever she left the neighborhood. They knocked on her door demanding compliance fees she had never heard of. When she refused to pay, they slapped bogus violation notices on her mailbox. It was harassment, plain and simple. Danielle documented everything: photos, videos, written logs. Years of working in law enforcement had taught her never to confront a problem without evidence. Still, she didn't imagine how fast things would spiral. One Sunday afternoon, Danielle was walking home from the community park with her niece. The sun was setting, kids were still playing, everything seemed common, till the roar of an SUV shattered the peace. The black vehicle screeched to a halt beside them. Out jumped 3 HOA security guards in tactical vests, guns on their hips. "Hey!" the leader shouted. "What are you doing here?" Danielle's niece froze in fear. Danielle calmly stepped in front of her. "I live here. Put your weapons away." But instead of listening, the man unholstered his pistol and pointed it directly at Danielle. "Don't move," he barked. "We've had reports of suspicious individuals. You're trespassing on HOA property." The other 2 guards closed in. Neighbors began peeking out of windows. Danielle's training kicked in instantly. She raised her hand slightly, keeping her voice steady. Pointing a firearm at an unarmed woman and a child is aggravated assault. You're seconds away from throwing your lives away. The guards sneered. "Don't tell me the law, lady. You people don't belong here." And that was the last straw. Danielle slowly reached into her jacket pocket. The guard flinched, tightening his grip. "Careful," he barked. Danielle pulled out a black leather wallet and flipped it open, revealing her FBI credentials. The gold badge glinted in the fading sunlight. "My name is Commander Danielle Carter, FBI Tactical Command. You've just committed a federal crime by brandishing a weapon against a federal officer. Lower your firearm now." The man's face went pale. His buddies froze in place, eyes darting nervously between each other. "You're lying," the leader stammered. "This is private property. We make the rules here." Danielle's voice dropped into the tone she used during hostagenegotiations.com, commanding and lethal. "No, the Constitution makes the rules. And right now, you're facing charges of aggravated assault, false imprisonment, harassment, and violation of civil rights under color of authority. That's 10 years in prison minimum. She pulled her phone from her other pocket, and lucky for me, the entire incident is on video. Say hello to your last night of freedom. By the time the local police arrived, Danielle had already secured the scene. She disarmed the guard who pointed the gun, placed his weapon in a sealed evidence bag, and had the others sitting on the curb with their hands zip-tied behind their backs. The officers at first seemed hesitant. The HOA had deep ties with local officials, and many cops turned a blind eye to their abuses. But Danielle knew the law better than anyone. She wasn't letting them wiggle out this time. She presented her FBI ID, explained the charges, and handed over the video evidence. The officers had no choice but to act. The guards were arrested on the spot, but Danielle wasn't done. She dug deeper into the HOA's so-called security program. What she uncovered was shocking. The board had no legal license for armed patrols. Their security guards were volunteers, many with criminal records. They had extorted homeowners with fake fees, threatening violence for non-payment, and worse. Of all, there were at least 6 prior complaints of racial harassment. All buried by the board, Danielle compiled everything into a 120-page report and handed it directly to federal prosecutors. Within weeks, the HOA's entire leadership was under investigation. Their assets were frozen. Their security patrol was disbanded. The guards who threatened Danielle were indicted on multiple felony charges. The trial became a media storm. News outlets across the country ran the headline, "HOA security pulls gun on FBI commander, now facing federal prison." Homeowners who had been bullied for years finally came forward, telling stories of harassment, threats, and financial ruin. With Danielle's evidence leading the case, the prosecution tore the defense apart. The guards were each sentenced to 12 years in federal prison. The HOA president received 15 years for racketeering and civil rights violations. The entire board was dissolved, and Danielle, she didn't just win justice for herself, she freed an entire community from the grip of corruption and fear. Months later, Danielle hosted a block party on her front lawn. Neighbors came together for the first time in years. Kids playing, families laughing, everyone finally feeling safe. Her niece tugged at her sleeve. "Auntie, are the bad men gone for good?" Danielle smiled and looked around at the happy crowd. "Yes, sweetheart, they're gone. And they're never coming back." Because the HOA had tried to use fear and intimidation to control people. But they forgot one thing. Fear doesn't work on someone who has spent her life facing danger head-on. And when they pulled a gun on Danielle Carter, they didn't just threaten a woman. They threatened the wrong FBI commander. This story is just the beginning. There is so much more ahead. Subscribe to the channel to join me on this journey.